Okay, when it comes to Gregory of Nyssa and his work, which I don't know how to pronounce, Ablabius,
Hmm?
and then he named his article on not three gods. He was one of the Cappadocian church fathers. So this is known as Eastern Trinitarianism. What can we say to summarize Gregory's work?
Gregory and the Cappadocian Fathers came in the late 4th century. Much of the theology before their time was a bit in the vein of Tertullian, and after him Athanasius, that sun analogy, a little bit of a hierarchical analogy, which sounds a little bit more like Arianism. You might say it's a short jump to say the Father begat the Son, to say, well, no, the Father created the Son. But there's a big difference. Again, if I create something, it's not equal to me in being. But if I beget something, it is equal to me in being. And so the Son of God is equal to the Father in divinity. Well, the Cappadocians gave a somewhat different analogy, and their analogy comes closer, feels, and sounds a little bit more like tritheism. In fact, the first time that I read Gregory, I was a little bit disturbed. I thought, well, gosh, I think this sounds like tritheism. But from what I understand, he's a great respected Christian theologian. What am I missing or misunderstanding here? And I did misunderstand him, it turns out, on the first reading. But what he says is he gives a different analogy, and he says, imagine three humans, and he mentions Paul, Silas, and Timothy in On Not Three Gods. So three, he just uses three biblical characters. Are they not all men equal in human value and human worth? Yes. And then would he say, do they not all share the same nature? That is what makes us equal in value. Why are you and I equal? Why do we have equal human rights? Well, because we share the same nature. Now, we modern people, we say, oh, well, what does that mean? We're just the same kind of thing. That's what that means, humans. But for him, we might not agree with him, but let's understand how he was thinking. When he said we share the same nature, what he meant is that there's literally something, not just figuratively, but literally something real that overlaps between you and me and every other human. Now, you can't see it or touch it, but he would say it's a metaphysical reality. It's an invisible reality called humanness that's really in us. And that's just from a modern perspective so strange to us that anybody would think that way, but this is the way that they thought. It's not a terrible answer because it's actually still really mysterious what makes us the same, if not something real that we share. So realism was kind of the default thinking in the ancient world. In the modern world, we don't think in a realist way anymore for certain philosophical reasons. Philosophy has developed away from that. But I think it's actually a helpful answer because the position that we're in, we can't actually really say why exactly we're the same and have the same worth. We just sort of just accept it, but we don't have a good answer. At least he had an answer. Humanness is almost like this invisible fluid that flows through us. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's just go with what he says. So if you strip away all of the differences, you and I have different height, different weight. Obviously people can distinguish us because of certain physical attributes. If you strip that away and strip away certain psychological attributes, what are you left with? You're left with pure humanness, and that's at the heart of what we are. Well, he would say, okay, now let's think about the Father, Son, and Spirit. The Father, Son, and Spirit are individuals, just like Paul, Silas, and Timothy are individuals. Okay, good. But the difference between the Father, Son, and Spirit and Paul, Silas, and Timothy, who are three discrete humans, Father, Son, and Spirit are not three discrete gods. The reason being is the Father, Son, and Spirit are the divine essence. You and me and any other human, we are not humanness itself. We have humanness, but we aren't humanness. Well, he would say the Father, Son, and Spirit really are humanness itself. Our divinity itself. And so that's why they are one being, because they are the divine essence. And he says, we can't actually see God and see that this is the case, but we know that it's true because of the inseparable operations. And when we see God doing anything, we know that the actor is the Father and also the Son and also the Spirit. And we see that scripturally. So that analogy, it's a little bit more of a sort of philosophically deep analogy than the Son analogy. But Gregory Nazianzen, a different Cappadocian father, he described it in this way. He said, imagine three lights, and they begin mutually encircling each other, making this holy circuit, he said, around one another. You can imagine we would see one divine circle where they're mutually circling each other. We wouldn't be able to distinguish, although we know there are three lights together. And so the Father, Son, and Spirit mutually encircle each other. And that was their analogy. As it turns out, the fidget spinner, that toy that it's not as popular anymore. But I used to have a light up fidget spinner, and you have three lights, and as you spin them, if you look at it in the dark, it makes one circle, and that's actually what Gregory Nazianzen was describing. And so that's a different analogy that they use.
Thank you for that detailed answer. I think it will help some people, because I have people helping me run the channel who are Eastern Orthodox, and sometimes we exchange ideas. We never argue. We just help each other understanding theology from different perspectives. So I think they'll be enjoying this aspect especially.